This is maybe a great takeaway for anyone listening today. Whatever it is you've been avoiding in your business, that's the thing you need to do to get unstuck and move forward. I can almost guarantee it.
Good morning. My name is Andy Goddard, and I have a crazy belief that you were born to be free. That freedom is really your natural state, and everything else is not who you are. And doTERRA just happens to be the very best vehicle for creating freedom, freedom at every level, whether it's physical, emotional, time freedom, freedom to choose, freedom to create. doTERRA has been such an incredible partner for us and vehicle. And Natalie and I love to fight for freedom and to share journeys of freedom. So today we have a very special guest to come and share her story. She's not a new face on the doTERRA stage. I think she's spoken at multiple leaderships and conventions. And I believe you're on deck for this convention too, if I remember.
Time.
Not this
Not
convention.
this time. Not that I know of.
Okay. Well, we might surprise you. So welcome, Tanya. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you're calling us from Oregon?
From Oregon. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we're having cloudy days today, so it feels a little bit like Oregon here.
Yeah.
So, well, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about where, kind of your life. Are you
Yeah.
you have kids? Where are you at with
Yeah.
life?
I have four kids, but I'm down to one left at home.
Wow.
I'm about to be an empty nester in the next couple of years. So I have two grown and married, one grandbaby, and a third daughter getting married in less than a month. And then I have a 17-year-old son left at home. So married to my husband James. I'm from Montana, but we've been out here in Oregon for 9 years. And I've been with doTERRA.
Wow.
This is my 15th year.
15 years.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, take us on your journey. Talk to us about life
Yeah.
before doTERRA. What were some of the pain points?
Mhm.
Take us on your journey.
Okay, well, my background, I studied art in college, but didn't know what to do with that as a career. So then I went into cosmetology, and I was a hair and makeup artist, but then I became a mom. And so I spent 8 years at home with my kids, and my husband had what we thought was our whole life mapped out for us because he joined a family business, and that was going to be his career path. And so everything was trucking along. And in 2010, things went a little sideways in his business and company. And he came to me one day, I mean, this had been building up, and said there was just some ethical conflicts. And he kept feeling like, I don't know that I can stay as part of this. But what are we going to do if, the economy is not good right now? This is 2010. We're still in the middle of the meltdown after the housing bubble. There wasn't really a great option to jump into. He said, I may have to walk out of my job today without a plan because things had gotten to that point. And I said, well, I support you. Do whatever you have to do. So that happened in 2010. He went out and launched a business on a wing and a prayer, and we were surviving. And we were very thankful that it was enough that we were able to pay our basic living costs and survive. And then what we did was we actually invested in renovating our basement, putting an exterior entrance into it, and we created a salon. And I started working in a salon that I opened. And during that time period, I started to learn about non-toxic living. And I'd seen a lot of my coworkers over the years in salons and spas have tremendous health crisis issues because of all the chemical exposure. So I opened what's called a clean air organic salon and went in this whole path of non-toxic living. And I was trying to raise four kids, and I did not want to put them in daycare. So my husband ran his business during the day and I was mom. And then in evenings and Saturdays, he took over with the kids and I worked, and sometimes I was taking appointments at 6 a.m. and sometimes I was working and taking and doing appointments till 10 p.m. or later just to fit in some hours to, as we say in doTERRA Hall buckets, to try to bring in a little extra so we could survive this major life career interruption. So 2 years into that, I was exhausted. I was having leg and pain, and my feet were hurting, and I was maxed out on hours. I everything was squeezing in, right? We were surviving, but we had stopped planning for the future. We saw our oldest was going into middle school. We couldn't send our kids to camp. We had no plan to save for their college. I just had this deep sense that we were not going to keep up with the growing needs of our family. And I had a dream to be able to help my kids go to college or launch or do whatever they needed to do without going into debt. Like we really believe in living outside of debt, but I couldn't see how it was going to happen. And I remember getting a notebook out down in my salon when I wasn't working with a client and I was trying to do all this math. Okay, how much could we save for how many years to give our oldest daughter something when she's ready to go? And the math just wasn't mathing, right? And we had this need, we had a really big financial need, but I could not see where the money would come from. My husband was hustling, pounding the pavement in sales, selling office supplies all day long, and I was maxing out my hours in my salon, and there wasn't any more energy or hours to give, is what I thought. And then I was introduced to doTERRA. And then so that became I don't know if you want me to just jump right into that. Yeah, okay.
Let's
So
do it.
yeah, so my friend Melissa brought me a sample of On Guard oil, and to make this story short, I just had a really profound experience with it, like really profound. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know what was in that, but the next time I talk to Melissa, I'm going to ask her what was that, and I need a bottle of it because that just like did something really amazing for me. Well, she invited me to a class. It was her first class. She was very nervous to invite me to that class. I didn't know at the time that she was very nervous, but she did. And she's a blue diamond, she ended up being a blue diamond. She was just brand new, nervous. And I'm so grateful that she had the courage to reach out and share with me because I went to that class taught by Natalie Wasaki, who it was her first class that she taught. She told me later she went in the other room and cried afterwards because she thought she did such a bad job. But my life was changed. I thought, what in the world? You thought you did a bad job? It was mind-blowing to me, the information. I knew I wanted these oils. We had a 9-year-old daughter really struggling with some emotional regulation. We did not want her to go on medications. I thought this might be the answer for her. But of course, money's tight. But I saw what they were doing. I saw this beautiful class. I saw this amazing modern essentials book and these oils. And I borrowed the book and I went home. I hadn't enrolled yet. And I just had this heavy pressing on me. You should sell this. I didn't think of the word sell because I didn't think I liked sales back then. I was afraid of sales. I could not sell shampoo or hair products for the life of me. I was terrible at selling in my business. And so I remember standing in our kitchen holding that book, talking to my husband James, and I said, I'm feeling really pulled, like maybe I should look at the business side of this. But that sounds crazy because I am not a salesperson. You're a salesperson. And he's a he's phenomenal at sales, naturally gifted. I said, I don't sell. I'm not a salesperson. You're the salesperson. So why I can't do this? And I was also very anti-MLM. I was very vocal. I will never do an MLM. I had some preconceived ideas that I later learned were really not based in reality. I just was misinformed. So I was very hesitant. But I remember my husband looked at me. He goes, you love to teach people, though. You've always been a teacher. You've taught things at church. You're always teaching people things to your clients. What if you just didn't think of this as sales? You just thought of it as teaching and you just started teaching people and then let's just see what happens. So that's how I started is it was not a full commitment. It was an experiment of such of just like, okay, I'll teach some people. I'll see what happens. I'll dabble, I'll tiptoe. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm doing an MLM, but I'll have a few classes. And my upline came and helped me teach a few classes and I saw immediate interest. And so I went to convention as a brand new elite. And then that was convention of 2012. That is where my vision really came into play and my commitment really happened. So something pretty profound happened at convention. You'll probably remember this, Andy, but it was a long time ago. But if you remember that year, we had a keynote speaker named Kyle Maynard. And Kyle Maynard he was born a quadruple amputee. So he was born with no arms and legs. So it's probably ringing a bell now. I think we may have had him a couple times at doTERRA. Amazing, amazing motivational speaker that they brought in. And as I was wrestling at convention, so this is why I tell people you got to get to convention because it changed my life. And I don't think I don't think I ever would have gone on this journey to the level I did if I had not have had been talked into going as a new elite with no money who didn't think I could take time away from my kids. But somehow I ended up there. All through convention, I was seeing people walking diamond. I was seeing the vision of the company. I started to grasp what they were doing. And I remember them saying, we will get doTERRA oils in every home. That is our mission. And I believed them. I'm like, I think they're going to do it. And it started to dawn on me. If they're going to get oils in every home, they're going to pay people to do that. And some people are going to be paid very well. And we really need money. So if they're going to pay people to do that, and I love these oils, why can't that be me? But then in my mind, all of the, well, this is why you can't do it. All of the reasons why I can't do it came in, and I was wrestling for the first couple of days of convention, just like, but I can't, but I can't, but I can't. I'm already running a business. I have 4 little kids. I can't take time away from my kids. How would I do this? I don't have the time. That's what I kept saying to myself. I don't have the time. But really, what it was even more about was I was fear of what people would think of me if I just like really went out there and was like, I'm with an MLM. That's what I was wrestling with. But Kyle Maynard was talking on the last day, and he told his stories of overcoming. And he had a wonderful father who did not give him excuses and did not do things for him, so that he had to learn how to figure out how to feed himself, figure out how to put his shoes on, figure out how to do life independently. He became a state champion collegiate wrestler, wrestling fully able-bodied people and taking them down, which was amazing. And then his really big, amazing accomplishment was he had a goal to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. And he had agreed to carry the ashes of a fallen soldier to that soldier's mother, who wanted her son had wanted to climb that mountain, and he said, "I'll carry his ashes on my back." He went out with a crew, was crawling up that mountain, and his story of overcoming and how hard it was, he was literally bleeding from having to punch through the snow and ice as he crawled on his belly up that mountain and was laying in a tent one night crying, saying, you have to take me back down. I can't do it. I can't do it. But because he had the ashes of the fallen soldier, he could not face that mom and say he failed. And so he pressed through and he made it to the top. And he gave this message about overcoming, getting rid of our excuses that we call our reasons why we can't do something, and that we can do so much more than we think we can do. So here I am wrestling with this vision I saw of like, maybe I could be a diamond in doTERRA someday. Maybe this could actually change my kids' future. And I'll tell you, the picture I had in my mind was of my oldest daughter, because she'd be the first to graduate. And I pictured her graduating, wanting to go to college. I figured that was the path she would take. And that I would look at her and say, we don't have anything to help you with, which that is a reality that happens in like for one reason or another. And it's not that kids have to have that. But I knew in my heart I could give her more because I was being given this opportunity. She might not know that I don't have anything to give her. We don't have anything to give her because I was too afraid I was too afraid to actually um, go on the journey that was presented to me. She wouldn't know that, but I would know that. I would know that I chose my fears and my excuses over the gift I could give her and her sister and her sister and her brother. And so on that day when Kyle Maynard talked about his accomplishments, and I thought about my reasons why I could not possibly commit to doing doTERRA full on. They were so small. They were pathetic. I'd be short on time. I don't have enough time. Um, it's going to pull me away from my kids. I thought, no, there's a way I could do this. I could figure it out. And so he asked if we were willing to get rid of our excuses and do what it was we knew we were supposed to do if we would stand. And that day, I just imagined that list of excuses on a piece of paper. I crumpled it up in my mind. I threw it away. I stood up And I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to be a diamond. And that changed everything. I went home thinking, I don't know how, but I will figure it out. And the first thing I had to do was get up 2 hours earlier every day, I decided. And I worked my doTERRA business 2 hours from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. People always ask, well, how did you do that? You can't reach out to people. Back then, you can't schedule text, but I would put my phone in airplane mode and I would write all of my texts to go out to people. I would watch trainings, I would plan my classes, I would get my invitations ready, I would do everything I could. And then my kids would get up at 7 and I would be full-time mom. And then at about 9, I would turn my phone on and just hit send, 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 send on my texts. And I would just do a little bit during the day to check in and respond to people. And then I would go teach an average of 2 classes a week in the evenings when I wasn't in my salon. And it was hard. It was really hard and I was really tired. But 10 months in, I was able to close my salon completely because I was making a lot more money with doTERRA. And that was my exit plan because my body was not going to be able to sustain all of the standing I had to do in that job. And then I continued, that was a gold at the time. And then I continued on to diamond later that year and blue diamond the next year. That's kind of my story in a nutshell. Lots has happened since then.
Wow.
But
Oh my goodness. What a ride. Thank you so much for inspiring. I really got emotional over here as you were talking about the Kyle Maynard story and the memory of his presentation just came flooding back.
mhm,
Thank you so much for sharing the nuggets where you caught the vision and how the vision changed you. The vision changed your trajectory. It changed your the way you saw, the way you did, like everything changed starting with that vision. So
mhm.
thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and I'm thrilled to say, really surreal moment was my first two daughters have both graduated completely debt free from college. Now they worked for some merit
Wow.
scholarships too, but then we were able to, just because that was my original vision, that was the first thing I had was that I wanted to give that to my kids. So just when I watched them walk the stage, it was such a full circle moment for me. I'm so proud of
Mhm.
them, but to think about my vision in doTERRA and the gratitude I have that this opportunity came to me when it did. I couldn't have found it if I went looking for it. I didn't know it
Mhm.
existed, but it came to me. And what I didn't know was that we needed that income for other things we didn't know were coming around the corner. We had a teenager with a massive medical crisis 3 years
Mhm.
ago. And without that doTERRA income, I don't know how we could have survived that storm. Um, so you sometimes you think you want your why is something. You think I'm going to do this
Mhm.
because of this.
Mhm.
And that can be a beautiful journey,
Mhm.
but you don't know what's around the corner. And sometimes you really have to trust that this could be a safety net being provided for you ahead of time. But if you don't have the courage to actually go do it, you
Yeah.
may really miss out on some provision that you're going to need.
Yeah. Wow. That's so profound. Oh my goodness. I love how convention was a game changer for you.
Hmm.
I've been preaching this for as long as I can remember,
Hmm.
that the convention is probably the most leveraged opportunity anyone has to transfer vision to their team.
Hmm.
So you want to maximize vision and belief and growth on your team, make sure they're at convention. Do anything in your power
Yeah.
to help them get there. It's so, so important.
So I developed a little trick or just, I don't know, method. Um, I went to convention the first year, and the second year I came back with 5 people, and the next year I came back with 15, and then the
Mm,
next year it was 75 people, and then it just kept growing into the hundreds. And what I started doing a couple years in is asking the people at convention, we'd get have dinner or a team party or something. At some point when I could connect with them, I would challenge everyone to set a goal that day, how many people they were going to bring with them next year to convention.
mhm,
And it's an amazing formula to multiply on a massive scale. Because if you had, let's just say you had 5 people at convention and they each set a goal to bring 5 people,
mhm,
you know, that's a much bigger group the next year. And if that happens a couple years in a row, it creates massive momentum. That continued to happen. We had a little setback after COVID and I had, fewer people there, but we are double this year from last year again. So you have to put that vision in, you go, but you inspire those that come with you to bring people with them the next year, and you keep doing that, and you get this critical
Mhm.
mass of belief
Yeah.
and vision, like you said.
Totally. Yeah, there's nothing that comes even close. I mean, Discover doTERRA is great. I love that the corporate is running with that and it's a great solution the other 11 months of the year. But man, you want to add gas to the fire of your business, get your team to convention. It's
Mhm. I
I
totally.
always say that big decisions are made at big events.
Hmm.
So as people start to learn about like you said, the culture of the company, the
Hmm.
values, the possibilities. There's no better place.
I'm eternally grateful for a couple of uplines that talked me into getting there because I thought I was thinking small. I
Hmm.
can't make a trip. I can't travel. I've got my youngest was just turned 3. It'd be too hard. We don't have the extra money. They were like, well, you can share our room and we're going to drive and you can ride with us. And if you want to, we can pack lunches if and they just made it doable. In fact, I had an upline 3 levels up for me, Casey Vaudry, who said, she knew I ran a salon. She goes, I give you the haircut. If you cut my hair, I'll pay for half of your gala ticket. And I
Hmm.
would have never sprung for a gala ticket. Like that just was an extra thing, a luxury. Things were so tight for us. And I said,
Hmm.
okay. And she got me to gala and I watched her walk diamond. And that
Hmm.
was so inspiring for me. Just all those little things that they encouraged me and carried me along and got me there to this life-changing event. So you just never
Hmm.
know whose life you're going to change on a massive scale by giving them
Hmm.
that nudge, and saying you can come with us and you don't have to do this all by yourself.
Yeah, so true, right? So creating that team, culture is so crucial. I love that they got creative in ways to get you there. They tuned in to what was important to you,
Hmm.
to make sure that it was resonating. Because yeah, like convention the first year, Natalie wanted to go, and I'm like, we don't take 3-4 days away from our kids, from our
Yeah.
family, for that. Like and our vision, our preconceived notions of what a convention was
Hmm.
a bunch of people parading their checks and fancy cars and yeah. So yeah, you had to be there. Like
Hmm.
there's no substitute for it. So thank you for helping us drill that home. And so it's not too late for people to get registered for
Yeah.
Orlando. Orlando is going to be off the hook.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, just join us. Everyone, please join us. I saw in the questions, Jeff was asking, um, you kind of breezed over, but how many years was it for you to get to Blue Diamond?
A year and a half from when I enrolled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
No, no,
man.
I'm sorry. That's wrong. It was a year. It was 17 months to Diamond, and then I went another 13 months after that to Blue Diamond. So I guess it was
Okay.
2.5 years. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's so inspiring. Thank you so much. Well, talk to us a little bit more about some of the just practicalities of how you built. Did
Okay.
you build online? Did you build in person? Did you do classes?
I
What was
did not
your?
build online. This was 2012, 2013. I mean, it was just, we were there was Facebook groups were like a new thing. I remember being like, oh, we could start a Facebook group for my builders.
Mhm.
So it just, online wasn't really what it was.
Mhm.
However, so I mainly used a class model, in-person classes,
Mhm.
on average 2 a week. A lot of times that was people hosting. I was a high duplicator, not a high personal enroller. I actually made it to Blue Diamond on less than 70 personal enrollments, but I was enrolling people, hundreds of people. I was closing enrollments. It's just that I was helping other people enroll people. That was just the way I did it. Not everyone does it that way. So I really talked about vision a lot and about the business opportunity a lot. And so I would nudge people to host a class, and then I would give them the option to enroll their guests if they wanted to. They didn't have to. And I would give them a small vision and help them to share. And my goal was to help them to get a check, to just get a check, because they knew that one check, my first check was $8. But I still remember, and it came in the mail as a paper check, that $8 check. I wish I would have saved it. I'd like frame it or something. But um, it was only $8. but it told me something so powerful. It said, this business works. This can turn that your sharing can be turned into money. The machine of it works. I just have to do more of it. And so then it built my belief. So I just had this goal of like help people earn a check because they go, oh, I got paid. So I did a lot of that. 6 months into my business though, so I was living in Montana and I had a childhood best friend in North Carolina. She was the one person I knew on the entire East Coast of the United States. I didn't know anyone else over there. I just was not networked out that direction. And she was successful. She had been successful in another company, and so I was intimidated to share with her. But she'd been watching. I did post a little bit on Facebook about being at convention and a couple of things about oils. So she reached out to me and asked for a bottle of essential oil. Basically, I was going to sell her a bottle of On Guard. And then I talked her into getting the basic kit, the family physician's kit. And she was really interested. I did not pitch the business to her because she was in another company. And I saw her successful. What I didn't know is her business was really struggling. And was really interested in learning about the oils. And she said, I wish I could host a class. I wish you weren't so far away to teach. I've got a lot of friends that would like to learn about these oils. So I said, well, what if we could figure out how to teach this virtually? I'd never done anything like this. Zoom didn't even exist. So I think we used Google Hangouts. I had this jerry-rigged stack of cardboard boxes with a lamp on it, and my husband helped me figure out how to connect to Google Hangouts. And she invited people to her living room and had her little kit and passed them around, and I taught. And it was so clunky. I talked way too long. I kept seeing them on the camera whispering to each other, and I thought, they think I'm crazy. This is a disaster. What I did not realize was they were amazed at the oils. Um, Long story short, we had multiple diamonds and a platinum later on that came out of that room. So she ended up leaving her company, making a decision to resign, came over to doTERRA, became a very strong diamond. She was my fourth leg. And North Carolina is the largest, most populated state on my team to date. When I look at my team map, it's like North Carolina is the darkest purple. Like there's the most downline on my team is in North Carolina because I knew one person on the East Coast. And I figured out how to do something I didn't know how to do. And not that I'm taking credit for this, she's amazing. But I share that story. Technology is totally different now, and I'm no online influencer, but you can figure things out if you need to share with someone far away, and you just never know what can come from one person that you share with, or one person even in another place that could explode a whole new region on your team. So that was kind of how I went from just some local classes to a more global team, as it all started with that pile of cardboard boxes and a lamp and a husband who helped me figure out how to connect Google Hangout, and we did a class. So
Amazing.
it's always worth going for it.
It's
Sometimes
worth
it's a
it.
dud and
It's
sometimes
worth
it's
it.
life-changing.
Yeah, never count anyone out, right?
Right.
You just
Yeah.
never know.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question. Marina's asking, how are you enrolling so much?
Duplication.
Okay.
It was because I was not in my own market anymore. You
Mm,
have your own pool of people and I started
mhm.
there, but then they knew people. And so I was always talking about hosting, but most of the people that were hosting classes were toying with the idea of sharing. And so I did classes for other people a lot. And I would do what I called team classes. I found a good little conference room I could do inexpensively, which was really helpful. I didn't have to do it in my house all the time. And so I would just schedule classes there that were open to anyone on my team that was a wellness advocate to come and bring people. And sometimes we'd have three people, sometimes we'd have two, sometimes we'd have 15. You just never knew. And then from there, I would often do you can stay afterwards and hear about the business. I did my first business presentation as a brand new, I think I had just hit Premier or Silver. I remember I had made $900. Um, um, and this was not long after convention because I came with such a drive.
Mm,
And I remember thinking, I need to start talking about the business to people. This is coming from an anti-MLMer that
mhm,
had just kind of decided, this is what I decided. I really was just afraid of being judged. And
mm,
I was trying to dabble, was trying to do
mm,
doTERRA under the radar without being real public about I'm doing this as a business. Why? It was my pride. I was embarrassed to have people see that I we must need money because I'm
mm,
doing another business. I don't know why that was in my head.
mhm,
And that I was willing to do it now. And then I thought, well, if I put it out there that I'm doing this and then I fail, I'm going to really look like a loser, right? So it was all those things I didn't want to admit, but they were there. And it just hit me. Like God just told me one day, you, and I kept saying, but I have kids and I'm busy. You are making your kids your excuse because you are fearful of people and you are withholding what you could create and give to your own children because you are choosing to please people that don't even matter that much. Acquaintances. You want to people please acquaintances and have them
mm,
think good things about you and you're sacrificing what you could give your family to make sure other people think well of you. And my priorities just switched. And so
mm,
I would be nervous to invite. I was like the most nervous person to invite. But I would think about my why. That's why it's so important to have your why, right?
mhm.
I would think about my kids and I would think about what I could do for them and change their future.
Wow.
And I would say, I want that more than I
Mm,
want to stay comfortable. And I would just push through. And I also would I would realize whenever I'd find myself avoiding something in the business, like I would be learning from leaders like you guys and Chedevies, and I was like listening to all of these trainings and I would learn what I had to do. And then if something made me uncomfortable, I go, well, maybe I could do it a little differently. Maybe there's a workaround for that. And I learned to recognize my temptation to do workarounds. Whenever I was
mm.
doing a workaround, it means I was facing a fear and avoiding it. And that means that's the one thing that I need to do to push my business forward, or I'll be stuck. So always
Wow.
tell yourself to stop the work, whatever you're avoiding. If you're like, well, I'll just share online because you don't want to talk to people, or I'll just only, one of my workarounds was I'm only going to share doTERRA with my customers in my salon. I don't want
Mm,
to share with my friends and family
mm.
because I didn't want to sell to my friends and family.
Right.
Then I realized, well, that's just me being afraid of what they would think. And I'm withholding wonderful products from people that I love. Why would I do that? So I built my business more starting with my friends and family. And I
Mm,
could not do that workaround, you know? So you have to go through. You can't go around. You have to go through
mm,
whatever you're avoiding. This is maybe a great takeaway for anyone listening today. Whatever
mm,
it is you've been avoiding in your business, that's the thing you need
mm.
to do to get unstuck and move forward. I can almost guarantee it.
Wow. That is so profound. Yeah. What is your relationship with resistance, right? What's your relationship with opposition and like the hard thing, the thing that's right there staring you in the face, and you've been making excuses not to do it. So get curious and get her done. I
I
love
still
it.
catch myself doing that,
So we
but
all do, right?
and then you have to go,
Totally.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm avoiding again. Yeah.
100%. Wanted to ask a question. If I were a person in one of your classes and I have interest, but I'm also a little skeptical, how would you move me to decision?
Interest
What's a,
in the product or the business. It's kind of the same process either way.
yeah,
So
walk us through that.
yeah. Okay. So I think of sharing the business opportunity as using the same model as sharing the products. You're presenting a solution for a problem, which is what sales is. And now I don't hate sales anymore. I love it because I'm just giving people solutions for their problems.
Mhm.
So if someone is, what's the word she used, a little skeptical about the
Yep.
product or about the business, that just fits in the category in my mind as they voiced an obstacle. So I listen for people to voice obstacles when they talk to me, and I'm very visual, so that's why I'm always talking about I picture in my mind a little red flag goes up, and it's a little obstacle flag, and I just recognize it, and I don't take it as a no. I just see, oh, they have a little obstacle. It's a friction point, and I can help them overcome that in their mind. Some people will have one obstacle, some people will have five obstacles. Our job is to just metaphorically take them by the hand, talk them
Mhm.
through it, help them clear that obstacle, See if another
Mhm.
obstacle comes up, clear that obstacle, and you just take them on this little journey. And as soon as those obstacles are cleared, they're all in. So if it's a product obstacle, well, these are interesting, but they're really expensive.
Mhm.
I use the technique, it's a sales technique. You can hear it from trainings all over the place, but it's called feel, felt, found. Generally, the conversation is you validate what they say. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way, or a lot of people feel that same way. But what I found was, and then you present the actual truth because their obstacle is usually not based in fact. So I think these oils are just too expensive. I totally understand how you feel. I was concerned about the cost too. My budget was really tight when I first learned about them. But what I found was it costs pennies to use these because you use 1 to 2 drops at a time. And when I realized I was able to clear my son's ear infections for less than $1 and how much we were spending at the pediatrician every time, and we were headed for tubes and all of this, it has saved us so much money on our healthcare. Do you see how it was just like I feel, felt, found? I cleared that obstacle with them, and then the same happens with the business opportunity. Well, I don't do MLMs. I understand how you feel. I was the most anti-MLM, and I explained like why I thought, but what I found was doTERRA has a vision to redefine the industry, and I love being a part of it. They have an amazing culture, and all of the things I was afraid of don't exist with this company. And it has been such a joy to be part of making this an amazing business model that feels good to be a part of. So you're just helping people clear obstacles.
I love that. Yeah, that's a true time-tested practice right there. The feel, felt,
Mhm.
found.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Talk to us more about mindset. I mean, you've done some hard things. If you were coaching someone on how to gain a winning mindset, right? Just like no excuse mindset, what would you say?
Yeah. I think a really important thing is you have to guard your eyes and ears from voices that, and I say eyes because a lot of it's on social media, of people that are speaking unbelief into you. And there's a lot of that out there today. So, that will take you down so fast. So get out of those groups. Don't be listening. The people who complain out there are the ones that are not, they're stuck in their own negativity and they're not having results and they're in their own like downward spiral. It's like you know, they're going down the drain. You don't want to be listening to that because how our minds work is we think a thought, it creates a feeling, and
Mhm,
that emotion dictates our behavior, what our actions we take, what we do, what we don't do, and that's going to determine our results. Well, so what
mhm,
happens is when we get a result that we don't like, we then see that as evidence, like my business is stuck or I went backwards. We see that as evidence to the original thought, and
mhm,
it cements it deeper. And so we get in this downward spiral where the what happens is we start looking around us and when other people are having struggles and then they voice something, our brain goes, latches onto it and says, yeah, that's confirming this thought, like this business isn't working or whatever.
mhm,
And then we just go down, down, down. And it will actually, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will not get good results. And then you will prove to yourself it doesn't work. And you cannot get out of this you know, belief crisis that will tank your business. So it's sometimes a little bit of it's a slow ship to turn because you have to start that spiral going back up. But so the first thing is to recognize those thoughts that are coming in your mind, get them written down on paper, just look at the thought and start to realize that it's affecting your results. The one piece of that equation you can change is your thought. You cannot change your feelings consciously, and you will not consciously change your behavior if you haven't changed your thought. And so you really have to, like, for those that are on this call, that's awesome because you're coming to a place where you're hearing confirmation of hope, vision, belief, goals. This works, it's life-changing. You need to surround yourself with that, and you need to choose to think thoughts that maybe feel like shoes that don't fit yet and just choose to consciously speak to yourself things that will feed into results that you want, you know? And so come up with some really solid belief-based thoughts, focus on them, repeat them to yourself, guard your mind from others that are speaking unbelief into you.
Mhm.
And your feelings start to change, your behavior starts to change, and your posture changes. So the problem is if you have a belief crisis, you can't attract people, no matter how much you try to fake it. You can't. No one will follow you because they don't believe in you. They don't believe you're going to actually win at what you're doing because they can sniff it out. They can smell that you're desperate or that you're not confident. So we get it straight in our head so that when you talk to people about doTERRA, like actual belief and confidence is oozing out of you and you don't seem desperate. A lot of people will say, well, no one will want to join my team because I haven't reached a significant income goal yet. I haven't made the money yet. And it's backwards because no one would succeed if you needed to prove it before you built a team, right? People do not join you because of what you have accomplished. They join you because of where you're going. And if you can communicate, so that was my very first business opportunity meeting was a couple people, like a handful of people in my living room. I just was winging it. I said, and basically my message wasn't anything fancy. People ask, well, how do you present the business opportunity? I said, you tell people why you're doing it. That's all you need to do. As I shared my own perspective, I've been introduced to this company. I love the products. I've been sharing with people. And I see where this could go. And I have decided this is my goal. This is how you get paid. And this is my goal. And this is where I'm going. And I'm building a team and I'm inviting anyone who's interested to come with me. Boom. That's it. So when they see that you're on this train and you're headed for your goal and they believe you that you're going to get there, they'll join because they don't want to get left behind. So you have to have that belief in place and this confidence that if someone says no, someone else will say yes. So you're not desperate, you're not trying to pick up warm bodies here. You are determined and committed because your why is strong and you know that everything is figure outable and your excuses are not going to determine whether you're going to get there or not. It's all in your mind. And when you have that solid and you use your voice and you're willing to humble yourself and say, I have an income need and this is how I'm going to solve it, that's relatable. People will come with you and you'll start attracting people.
A to the man, sister. Way to preach it. Belief is where it starts, belief is where it ends.
Totally.
It's the one thing if you could track in your team, like that would be the one metric that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
It all comes
Yep.
back to belief. So get conscious, right? Start to be aware of the thoughts that you're running, the beliefs that underlie those thoughts,
Mhm.
and get intentional. Don't be a victim. Love
There
that.
are lots of people winning in doTERRA right now. There are
Hmm.
a lot. And I really want to preach that from the
Hmm.
rooftop because it's the people who are busy and are out there winning at doTERRA aren't
Hmm.
on Facebook and social media
Yeah.
to talk. They're busy. So you have
Yeah.
to actually look for them. If you've ever done that exercise where someone says, here's a game, I'm going to give you 20 seconds to count how many red things you see around you, and you're counting. And they
Hmm.
say, close your eyes. Now tell me how many yellow things were in the room, and you don't know. You will
Yeah.
see evidence for what you're looking for. And if you're looking for failure,
Hmm.
you're going to see it. Start
Yeah.
looking for the people that are winning, and you'll start seeing it.
Amen. So, so good. Well, I would love to hear your coaching. Let's say somebody has been in doTERRA for a while, or maybe they're brand new to doTERRA as a business. What's your advice? I mean, you've already given so many nuggets, but if I'm a new builder on your team, give me your pep talk.
Well, it sort of depends. I really believe in doing some vision casting with people. So I don't actually tell people what to do until I have a really in-depth conversation to help them figure out what they actually want. So if someone just wants to get their oils paid for and make a little bit of side money, I'm going to tell them something very different than someone who's has an aggressive goal. So if let's just play like if someone has an aggressive goal because you know that's that I think that's where sometimes people
Mhm.
they are like hungry for it, like tell me what to do if I really like I want to go for diamond. If someone has an aggressive goal, and it's okay if you don't have an aggressive goal, but if they you want like an accelerated you want an accelerated growth, my advice is start don't wait to talk to people about the business opportunity.
Mhm.
And that's, it served me well. I duplicated a lot on my team.
Mhm.
And I like duplicating. I don't like having to fill all the volume in with all my own enrollments all the time. I really love the magic of multiplication. And I like inspiring people and seeing them do it. So don't wait for to find builders. I don't really like the word find builders, because finding builders kind of seems like it's sort of like you get lucky and you look down and you found a cool seashell, on
Mhm.
the beach. You're not finding them. You're not waiting for them to organically come to you. A lot of people are interested, but they have their own hangups and they think, I don't think I'd be good at this. And they'll never come to you and they'll never say it. If you have to be the initiator.
Mhm.
And this is the one thing people are afraid to do the most is talking to people about the business. And they avoid it the most and they stay stuck because they don't duplicate. So there's no reason to wait. You can month one start talking to people about the opportunity and just ask those questions. I'm just curious. Would you be interested in seeing a little bit of information about what I am doing to create another stream of income by sharing doTERRA? Um, you're not accosting them, you're not going to pounce on them. You're just asking these curiosity questions to just nudge them to see if they're open to a conversation. And if they're open to some information, you're going to move that into a conversation or an invitation to a presentation. And
Mhm.
you 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 have to be okay with people saying no. To date, I've never had anyone offended by being
Mhm.
asked. And I've had people say no, and we still are fine. We have, it has never ruined a relationship. So you want to think about it as like you've got a deck of cards. The people who are going to really be in this business running with you are those aces in the cards. But you can't find those aces by just staring at the deck of cards and waiting for the aces to jump out. You have to start flipping through the deck. So you're
Mhm.
going to have get a lot more no's and declines than you are aces. So we just have to get past this fear of people saying no and realize that's part of the journey. And it's not a terrible thing. If someone says it's not the right time for me, I don't think this is a fit for me. Awesome. Well, how was that vacation? And you just carry on with a normal
Mhm.
relationship. Most people will say it's not really the right time for me, but maybe circle back later, or I wonder if my daughter would be interested, or they're still going to cheer you on. It's not
Yeah.
maybe right for me, but it's awesome that you're doing that. They're still in your corner. Just start having those conversations because you don't know whose life could be changed because you gave them the invitation. And think about the fact that someone shared it with you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hog that gift and
Mhm.
not give it to anyone else because I'm afraid that they think the gift is weird.
Mhm.
It's all just like we just tell ourselves these stories that we have to get outside of this
Yeah.
world.
I love this idea that of always be inviting, right? Like it's our
Mhm.
job to just be there inviting and not be attached to who says yes and who's not
Mhm.
ready yet. Just I think that's the biggest difference between the top leaders in the company and everyone else is they've just
Yeah.
invited more.
And be a person who is open to going out and making friends. Just
Yeah.
become a person. If you are not that, you can learn to become a
Mhm.
person. Become a person when you go out to the store or you go to the library or wherever, just be someone that walks
Mhm.
up to someone and gives them a compliment on the shirt they're wearing that day. Just practice that kind of thing. And you
Yeah.
will become an initiator who's a
Mhm.
connector and say, I'm just a person who connects with people, who makes people
Mhm.
feel good. Just random strangers. When you become a connector, you never run out of people to talk to.
Mhm.
And instead of thinking about I have to go out and sell oils, tell yourself
Mhm.
my job is to go out and just give as many people oil experience as I can.
Yeah.
And that feels really good. And start there and it will organically flow out of that.
Yeah, 100%. Amazing. Well, I want to invite everyone who's here to think deeply about the example that you shared of Kyle Maynard. And when he decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, somebody whose son had died as a soldier gave him their son's ashes, right? And said, "Will you leave these on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro?" What would happen if each of us took on that same level of pledge to our goals in doTERRA? What if we imagined, the mother of a fallen soldier saying, "I need you to get this and leave this at the summit, whatever that summit is for you. Maybe it's silver, maybe it's diamond, maybe it's presidential, whatever that summit is for you. But what if we took that commitment with the same level of seriousness that Kyle did to
Mhm.
this mother? How differently would we treat our actions, our goals, our thoughts? How much more vested would we be? Like he had made a promise and he wasn't going to back down. And that's why often we say that deciding, the doing part of a goal isn't the hard part, it's the deciding. Once you decide, then go all in.
Mhm.
Publicly declare it. Stake your integrity on the fulfillment of that goal, and then watch the universe move as you move into action and move towards that goal. Such an inspiring thought. So thank you so much for bringing Kyle back into that conversation.
Yeah, I think someone posted a link to his website in the chat. So I encourage everyone, there's some really great YouTube videos with his story. Go watch it. He's an inspiration for sure.
For sure. And those who are watching the replay, it's just Kyle-Maynard.com. So
Yeah.
Maynard. Well, thank you so much for taking so much time with us, Tanya. I don't know if you have any parting thoughts or wisdom for us before we wrap today.
Well, maybe I'll just piggyback on what you said. If you're thinking about, well, what if you had this mother who gave you the ashes to carry? I mean, that's really essentially like you have to have a strong why driving you, right? That
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
always thinking about. So
Yeah.
what if you just made that promise to future you,
Mhm.
or to your family, your future kids, or whoever it is. But if your future you
Yeah.
think about where will I be if I do this? Where will I be if nothing changes?
Mhm.
And then you imagine, say, future you saying, I need you to do this for me today. I need you to do this now. Like it's one of my strengths. So I think that way. I think about, well, will I be happy I pushed through today or will I regret it? Start
Mhm.
thinking from the future. Start thinking about future
Mhm.
you, talking to yourself, cheering
Mhm.
you on, saying, I know this is hard, but I need you to do this. It will matter. And to me, that's what drives me on the days that it would be really easy to just not do it?
Yeah, it's the model that we're in, it's accessible to anyone. So what's easy to do is also easy not to do.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your example. Thank you for your story, for your time. We've been so blessed to having you here with us, and we look forward to seeing you in Orlando.
Orlando. We'll see you
Here we
there.
come. Awesome. Have
All
a
right.
great week,
Thanks, Andy.
everyone.
Bye.
See ya.